There is something off the coast of a tiny island in the Indian Ocean that makes your brain stop working. You look at it, and your first instinct is that something has gone terribly wrong with the ocean. Water seems to be falling, not down a cliff, not off a rock face, but straight down into the deep, dark floor of the sea itself. A massive waterfall, underwater, flowing in silence into a black abyss over 4,000 meters deep. And here is the thing that nobody tells you at first. It is real. You can see it with your own eyes. Pilots have captured it on camera. Tourists have filmed it. Satellites have photographed it. But it makes absolutely no sense. And the deeper you go into the truth behind it, the stranger this story becomes. Because what you are really looking at is not just a natural wonder. It is a geological mystery, an optical illusion powered by the ocean itself. And it sits at the edge of a mountain that holds one of the most heartbreaking stories in human history. This is the underwater waterfall off Mauritius, and once you understand what is actually happening here, you will never look at the ocean the same way again. If you are new here, this channel is where the ocean stops being background scenery and starts being the most terrifying, beautiful, and mysterious place on the planet. Hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment below telling us what you thought you were looking at before you found this video. Because trust us, almost everyone gets it wrong. To understand what is happening off the southwestern coast of Mauritius, you first need to understand where Mauritius even came from. This is not just another island. It is an ancient geological accident, born roughly 8 million years ago from a volcanic hotspot deep beneath the Indian Ocean floor. The same hotspot that built it slowly dragged the island off its source over millions of years, leaving it sitting on a raised underwater plateau, a shallow ocean shelf, surrounded on all sides by some of the deepest ocean trenches on Earth. The island sits about 700 miles east of Madagascar, surrounded by turquoise water so clear you can see the ocean floor beneath you in places. But at the edge of that shelf, everything changes, and it changes fast. Just off the southwestern tip of Mauritius, near a place called the Morne Peninsula, the underwater shelf comes to an abrupt and dramatic end. One moment the seafloor is shallow. Then it simply drops away, not gradually, not over miles. It ends like the edge of a table, plunging into the deep ocean to depths exceeding 4,000 meters. That is roughly the height of the Alps, going down. And at that precise edge, something extraordinary happens every single day, without stopping. The Indian Ocean is not calm in this region. Powerful currents sweep constantly across the shallow shelf, picking up the fine white sand and silt that lines the coast of Mauritius, the kind of sediment built up over millions of years of volcanic erosion and coral breakdown. These currents push that sand and silt steadily toward the edge of the shelf, and when those particles reach the drop-off, they spill over. They cascade down the submarine slope in great flowing rivers of sediment, light-colored grains tumbling through darker, deeper water. And when you look at this from above, whether from a helicopter, a seaplane, or even from the peak of Morne Brabant mountain, the contrast between the pale, flowing sediment and the dark blue depths below creates one of the most convincing visual tricks nature has ever produced. It looks exactly like water falling over a cliff, an enormous, impossibly wide, perfectly silent underwater waterfall. But here is where it gets even more interesting. The shape of the seafloor beneath this drop-off is not just a random slope. According to geological surveys of the area, there is a horseshoe-shaped chasm at the very tip of the underwater plateau, a curved canyon carved into the edge of the shelf. And when the sand-laden currents push over that horseshoe shape, the flowing sediment fans out and curls in a way that looks deeply familiar to the human eye. It resembles the great curved waterfalls of the world, Niagara, Gofoss in Iceland. Something deep in our visual memory recognizes the shape and tells us we are looking at falling water, and that is the trap. The brain fills in the story before the science gets a chance to explain it. This is technically what scientists call a sandfall rather than a waterfall. The water itself is not falling, the sand is. The ocean currents are the engine, the shelf edge is the stage, and the result is one of the most perfectly constructed natural illusions on Earth. something so convincing that photographs of it regularly spread across the internet with captions claiming it is a real underwater waterfall, before fact-checkers step in to explain what is actually happening. Even then, people resist believing it because the images are just too compelling. The visual is too perfect. The best time to witness this phenomenon is between September and December, when the weather is clear enough for helicopter and seaplane tours. The illusion is most striking at high tide when the currents are stronger and the sediment flow is at its most intense. And from above, the palette of colors that results is almost impossible to describe in words. The shallow lagoon glows in bright turquoise. The deeper shelf fades to indigo. And where the sediment spills over the edge, rivers of pale blue and white seem to cascade into a black void below. 50 shades of blue, all telling the story of the ocean floor beneath them. People who have taken helicopter tours over this area describe the moment they realize what they are looking at as one of the most disorienting and beautiful experiences of their lives. Now pause here for a second, because we want to ask you something. Drop it in the comments right now. Before you watched this video, did you believe the underwater waterfall was real, or did you already know it was an illusion? The answers always surprise us, because even educated, scientifically minded people fall for this one. The image is that powerful. But here is the layer of this story that most people completely miss when they talk about the Mauritius underwater waterfall. The mountain that overlooks this phenomenon, Morne Brabant, is not just a scenic backdrop. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the reason it earned that designation in 2008 is one of the most harrowing chapters in the history of the Indian Ocean. During the 18th and early 19th centuries, as Mauritius served as a key stopover in the Eastern slave trade, the island became home to thousands of enslaved people brought from East Africa, Madagascar, India, and Southeast Asia. Some of them escaped. And where did they run? They climbed Le Morne. The mountain's almost vertical cliffs, dense forests, and cave-riddled slopes made it a natural fortress. Groups of escaped slaves, known as Maroons, carved out hidden communities on its slopes and summit, living in fear of capture, surviving on whatever the mountain could offer. Mauritius during this period was reportedly known by some as the Maroon Republic because of how many escaped slaves had found refuge on that single mountain. And then there is the story that haunts the mountain to this day. According to oral traditions passed down through generations, when British authorities finally came to Le Morne to inform the Maroons that the Slavery Abolition Act had been passed and they were finally free, the escaped slaves did not understand what was happening. They saw soldiers and officials climbing toward them and believed, after years of running and hiding, that they were about to be recaptured. Rather than face that fate, reports suggest that many of them threw themselves from the cliffs of Le Morne into the ocean below. They died on the day they were supposed to be free. There are no words for that. The mountain above the waterfall illusion carries that grief to this day. So what you are really looking at when you see the underwater waterfall off Mauritius is not just an optical trick. You are looking at the meeting point of geology, ocean physics, human history, and the raw power of the natural world. The island was born from fire 8 million years ago. It sits on a shelf that drops away into a 4,000-meter abyss. The currents of the Indian Ocean push sand over that edge every single minute of every single day, creating an illusion so perfect that it has fooled millions of people worldwide. And above it all, a mountain stands that witnessed some of the most desperate human suffering of the colonial era, now recognized by the world as a monument to resistance and the unbreakable desire for freedom. Mauritius is one of those places that forces you to slow down and think about scale, the ocean floor, the human past, the tricks our eyes play on us, the weight of history sitting right next to natural beauty. Very few places on Earth carry all of that in a single view. If this video opened your eyes to something you did not know before, share it with someone who loves the ocean or who you think would genuinely be amazed by this. These are the kinds of stories that deserve to be passed around, not just scrolled past. And we would genuinely love to know what you think. Do you believe places like the Le Morne Peninsula should be given even more global attention, both for the natural wonder and for the history beneath it? Or do you feel like the science behind the illusion somehow takes the magic away? Let us know in the comments. The conversation down there is always worth reading. This has been Benthic Files. The ocean is deeper than you think, and it always has more to say.